There we go. Now it's working. Hi, folks, and welcome back to my YouTube channel, which has been very silent lately, especially because I've been having a ton of technical difficulties, mostly because my computer sucks and I kind of refuse to upgrade it. Anyway, this is my top 10 games that were new to me in 2024. Right before filming this list, I found a game that I hadn't bothered to I had forgotten to log to play, and it might have been in this top 10, so it's going to be honorary number 11, even though I did my like 11 through 40 on Facebook the other day. So anyway, it's complicated, and sometimes I forget to log games, and that doesn't help. I played, I do believe, 104 new games over the course of 2024. But yeah, it's hard to keep track. Listen. Um, so without further ado, oh, also I should mention, slight further ado. I had filmed a video for my top 10 games I saw at Gen Con, which I went to for the first time this past year. And yeah, it's never going to see the light of day because I'm having too many issues with it. So a few of those are going to be on this list anyway. So we'll get those in. We'll get those in. Speaking of which, let's talk about my number 11, my honorary one that might have been higher up on here if I'd bothered to think about it enough, and that is Alte, which I expected to have by now because I pre-ordered it right after leaving Gen Con. It's a deck building game by Paolo Mori, great designer, Ethnos among other things. And yeah, Alte was just a really cool, slightly asymmetric fantasy deck building game where you're with some actual like attacking and area control. I'm excited to try it again, and it was super cheap to pre-order it on Game Nerds, who is not sponsoring this video, so reach out, Game Nerds. Yeah, that's my honorary number 11. Now, let's get into the list. So, number 10 is kind of a wild story for years I've wanted to play this game because it's kind of impossible to get. And then my friend Nikki just kind of bought me a copy, and that's Glory to Rome. So shout out to Nikki for getting me Glory to Rome, and this is an amazing game. It's by Carl Chudik, the same designer as Innovation, another one of my favorite games. And this is Multi-Use Cards, the card game, where it's like set in Rome and you're building buildings and scoring points, but there are so many different strategies that you can do in the midst of these like four small decks of cards. The art is horrible. Oh my gosh, this game's worth a lot of money. I just dropped it. It's what, IV Studios? Is that no, Cambridge Games Factory, who always made them in these weird clamshell plastic games, and then this cartoonish art for some reason. But this game is actually worth a lot of money. But yeah, it's great. It's never coming back into print because of the fight over who owns the actual game. Anyway, that's Glory to Rome, number 10. Number 9 is a game I played at Gen Con. So Brendan had never been to a board game convention before. Brendan joined me, and we were walking around the vending hall the first day. It was crazy, way too packed, and I was like, hey, let's find a demo. And the first spot we sat down in was the board and dice booth, and we played half of a game of Minos, Dawn of the Bronze Age. This thing is ridiculously heavy. He and I both really liked it. He actually wound up buying it. I got a copy recently, played it for the first time actually on New Year's Eve, so just barely made the list. And yeah, Minos is a really interesting medium-heavy Euro game where you are upgrading. So it's dice drafting, but then you're upgrading your actions over the course of the game. So early on, you're just like, oh yeah, I'll draft this dice, I'll dice this draft, and then I'll take this action right here that lets me do, I don't know, build a building or something like that. But later on, you're like, okay, I'm going to draft this die, and every time I build a building, I also get a victory point and to draw 2 cards. And because I used a 4, I also get to do all these other things and move a guy on the map and stuff like that. So like over the course of 4 rounds, your actions get extremely more complex. Can take a while to play, but I really did enjoy both the half play at Gen Con and then the full play the other day. So that's Minos. My number 9. Number 8, I don't own. I played this at Origins, actually, with Jonathan. This is Baseball Highlights 2045. Baseball Highlights 2045 is essentially Baseball, the 2-player card game. And it's also a deck building game as you draft new players to add to your team in between games, and you play a full season, and then you play a World Series. Whoever wins the World Series, wins the game. That makes a lot of sense. But yeah, it is wild how much knowing the rules to the game of baseball lets you know how this game works. And like we sat down in the corridor at Origins, and I got it from the library there, and I was like, let's like read the rules and play this. We read the rules, we started playing it, we're like a little bit confused. Some guy walked by, he's like, oh, I love that game. And we're like, great, tell us, can you explain this part to us? He's like, yeah, this, and this. And we're like, okay, obviously that makes sense because that's how baseball works. Yeah, I know Jonathan, I think, picked up a copy. I would love to pick up a copy someday. Two-player deck building game, Baseball Highlights 2045. Number 7 is probably Amy's favorite game on my top of the games that she played in 2024, not 2045. That's Baseball Highlights. This is Apiary. So Apiary is by Connie Vogelman, who also designed Wormspan this year, which did not make it to my top 10, but is a very good game. Apiary is a game about being a colony of space bees. It's like far in the future when bees are the sentient species and the humans all killed each other off or something like that. It happens. And this is from Stonemaier Games, who makes a lot of my favorite games. It's truly like just a brilliant design in that everything fits together so well. You can kind of do whatever you want. It's a bit sandboxy, though it can be a little bit hard to get into that because it's a sandbox that's like not something you're used to, unlike some sandbox games, which is like, oh, this is a fantasy land, or oh, this is the Wild West. Like this one is like, oh yeah, you're space bees. We all know that trope. But once you kind of see the first few actions, you're like, oh, okay, so I'm just building up my stuff and getting better and better things and just trying to buy points in all these many different ways. A lot of fun, plays well at 2, plays well at 5. I learned and taught this at Cabin Con. So there were 5 of us, I think, 4 or 5 of us playing it for the first time, and it was still great. And that is truly a mark of a good game because it's hard to teach a game to people right after you learn it and you haven't played it yourself yet. And it worked out pretty good. That's Apiary, number 7. Number 6 is The Veil of Eternity, the second smallest game on this list. Oh, no, I guess Glory to Rome is like really tiny. Anyway, Veil of Eternity is a game where you have like a big stack of unique cards that everyone is drafting from and playing, and it has a lot in common with like CCGs, like Magic the Gathering. Each of the cards is different. They all, have rules text on them. You got to understand them, read the rules text and stuff like that. But it's just the combos in this game are crazy. Like you could, there's obviously like if you go just for all blue cards, then you're going to be doing stuff that the blue guys do. But the combinations of drafting from like there's 5 different kinds of cards and working them together in unique ways to like find a way to get a lot of points. Very cool. The game ends when somebody gets to, I think, 60 points. And you do finish out the round. I mistaught that game once to Sarah, and she beat me because I taught her the wrong way, but still counts because I taught her. And she's in the room listening to me hear this, so of course she would come over screaming and disagreeing if I said anything else. But yeah, Veil of Eternity, really good game. Kind of want to pick up the expansion, see what it adds. I know there's like artifacts you can add to it, but it is simple enough and plays well with 4 people, or 3 or 2, that maybe I don't need the expansion. Number 5 is the only, not actually a roll and write, but a flip and write on this list, and that is Trails of Tucana. Bob introduced me to this game because he got it at a like rummage sale at a thrift or at a church, and then I actually wound up picking up a copy at a board game like flea market thing from Matt actually. So shout out to Matt. Yeah, Trails of Tucana is great. You are making little maps, or rather, there is a map, and you're building paths across the map. So here, let me see. I don't even know who did this one. It wasn't me. I don't make lines that big. Yeah. Anyway, and you're trying to visit all these little sites and see all these creatures and obelisks and things. But then you're also trying to match up the villages. So like here's village C and here's village C. So if you manage to connect those two, you get a bunch of points. Player interaction only, that there is shared objectives that you're all going for, but like It's a lot of fun. I think I played like an 8-player game of it. Works great. That's Trails of Tucana. A little hard to come by. I think they need a reprint. So I was happy to pick up a copy. So from the simplest game in my top 10 to by far the most complicated. This may be the most complicated board game I've ever played. And this is Voidfall. Number 4, Voidfall. Gosh, I can't carry it the whole time. I'll put it right down like this. Um, Voidfall is kind of insane. Who's the designer on this anyway? Oh yeah, it's Nigel Buckle and David Turtsey. So Turtsey especially, I know, has a lot of complicated games. The Imperium Classics is one of his that I really enjoy, but this game is insane. This is like a space epic with politics. You can play it cooperative, you can play it competitively. I've only played it competitively. The first time that I played this game, I had read the rules, and then we between setup, teaching the game to Mark and Jonathan, and playing the game, it took us a little over 6 hours, I do believe, and it was great. The second time, I think it took us almost as long. But someday we'll become good at it, and we'll know how it works. Yeah, but like it is complicated, but you do get like into the hang of things, and you start feeling out the way that you're supposed to go. The iconography actually makes a lot of sense, which is very helpful. And then the player aids also help with that. It's just you have so many options, and you're giving up on so many options that the decision space is extremely large. Highly do not recommend this to most people that I play games with because they would hate it. Like, yeah, you could understand it. It's not like incomprehensible. It's just you have to want to be confused, and that's not most people. But I like it every once in a while, so that's me. Number 4, Voidfall. Number 3, I don't own. I've been looking for a cheap copy, haven't found one yet, and that is After Us. So After Us, I played at Gen Con, and I played it there because George, who I just met at Gen Con, has since become a friend. George brought it to Gen Con from Alaska, so he's flying down with it. So of course, he didn't bring the box. He deconstructed it and put all the important components in like various plastic bags and brought it in. I was like, yeah, I've heard of this game. Sure, I'll give it a try. And he taught me. I was like, this is great. Let's play it again. And we played it like 3 times in a row, basically. Fantastic game where you're playing like these tribes of monkeys in a post-apocalyptic setting. My guess is this is before the space bees, but after the humans. And yeah, it's a deck building game where you are arranging your cards in these patterns to kind of match up special abilities that give you resources and points and other things. And it is a race to a number of points, kind of like a Veil of Eternity. But yeah, just super cool, super fun. And I was able to do like 3 very different strategies each of the games, and it worked out well every time. Very satisfying. That's number 3. After Us. Number 2, I also don't own, and I played this for the first time at the end of December. This just came out, and man, it's good. And this is SETI. So I've played SETI twice now, actually a 2-player game, a 3-player game. A little better at 3, but in SETI, it's the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, which is a program that's been going on for I don't know 50 years or something like that. But essentially, there's kind of 2 parts to the game. In the first part, you're trying to find aliens. In order to do that, you're like scanning various areas. You're also launching space probes and sending them out to like Jupiter and Mars and like the planets in the solar system. And then you're also getting this data that you're going to run in your computer system. And those 3 things allow you to find traces of alien life. So partway through the game, like maybe a third into the game, it's going to be 2 alien species, and you will discover them every game. So like, it's not really a question. You're going to get them. But each of the alien species adds new rules into the game. So like maybe it adds in that there's now a pick up and deliver part. Maybe there is now this kind of little game of chicken where you get these powerful cards, but whoever plays the most of them has something negative happen to them. I'm trying not to, maybe I shouldn't spoil too much, but it is really cool that like whoever does the most danger loses 1/10 of their points at the end of the game, which is a lot of fun. Yeah, anyway, it's The 5 alien species, I only played with 4 of them so far, so there's one still I haven't played with. But they make the game even like that much more interesting. So you kind of like get into it, you're pushing buttons, you're flipping switches, and things are happening, and then all of a sudden, boom, the game has changed. You're doing something slightly different now. There's a big deck full of unique cards, something I always love in games. And yeah, it's just there's lots of different ways to play. You can focus on different things. You can do a lot of probes. You can send up a probe to Uranus if that's what you're into. You can I'm a child. Um, you can really focus on the computer. That's a lot of fun. And like to get the data, you have to do a lot of scanning, and then you get it, and you can put it in the computer and like get different bonuses with the way you put the data out, and then run the computer and find traces of alien life. Super fun. I definitely want to pick up a copy. That's SETI. And finally, number one, which I didn't think was going to be number one, actually, because I didn't think that I had played it for the first time last year. And then I was like, wait a minute, let me check on that. I played for the first time on January 7th, 2024. And that's Revive, which I played Revive 7 times last year. Shout out to Jimmy who taught me this game. It's amazing. Like this is a deck builder. It's also post-apocalyptic. Gosh, how many of these games are post-apocalyptic? Oh my god, it's too many. Anyway, sorry, just got maybe that says something about my psyche. But yeah, in Revive, you're playing as a like post-apocalyptic tribe, digging yourself out from the ice. It is deck building, but the deck, it's kind of deck building because you're more hand building. And when you play your hand out, you will then take everything that's in your discard pile and move it to your new hand and put everything that was in play and move it to your discard pile. So you kind of have like 2 different hands that you're adding cards to. So sort of deck building, sort of not, but it's just like a lot of fun and very much one of those things where you're like, oh, I wish I could do this. Oh, wait a minute, what if I do this, this, and this, and this, and then I can. This is another game. Actually, several of these games lately are like on your turn, you get 1 main action and then up to as many free actions as you want. So that's this game, that's Minos, that's SETI. But like the free actions are like you're building this machine over the course of the game and you can activate it with energy. Super cool. That's my number 1, Revive. Thanks for watching. I'm hoping to do my top 100 board games of all time at some point, maybe in February. But we will see. Because yeah, I'm really not, not doing this whole YouTube channel thing well, which is fine. So YouTube, get off my back and stop asking me to like, I don't know, use AI to improve my channel. Like I barely have the eye to improve my channel. Anyway, everyone, have a great year, and yeah, bye.